It's the weekend. Welcome to your Daily Detroit for Friday, January 31st, 2020. I'm Jairus Days. Look, this has been a busy, long week. Lots of things happening. Serious conversations. Issues that affect us all. But today's episode, friends, today is not that. No, it's the weekend, so we kicked back, cracked open some Casamara Club, and talked to Jason LaValla. What is Casamara Club? Well, it's what's called a leisure soda. That's a concept I wasn't sure about at first. I mean, after all, my uncle got married in a leisure suit. But now, I totally get it. They're amaro soft drinks made with actually natural ingredients founded here in Metro Detroit. Now, this isn't some intensely venture-funded, backed Operation Crazy thing. It's a few people and a bubbly dream that is becoming, case by case, a reality. And that hard work is something that I can always raise a glass to. Sven Gustafsson joins me for this conversation with Jason right after I thank our members on Patreon who make episodes like this possible, where we kick back and highlight the offbeat little guy. Thanks to Alan, Seth, Leslie, Nicholas, Matt, and all of our members, we're looking to add at least 16 more of you by our 500th episode, and we're at episode 427. That would be quite awesome to do, and we have some time, but let's do this. You can pitch in for just a few bucks a month, or whatever amount your heart desires, at patreon.com/dailydetroit. All right, enough babbling. It's time for some bubbling.
Joining us in the studio is Jason LaValla. He is the founder and president of Casamara Club. We will make sure to ask him about how to join that exclusive club a little bit later. Jason, welcome to Daily Detroit.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Casamara Club. You guys, a little bit of a niche product you've got going on here. Sparkling amaro soft drinks.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a little bit of a niche. I sometimes wonder, maybe worry is a better word, too much of a niche. But yeah. I don't know. I think for me, the goal was to take a need that felt like it was real and big and growing and find just a fun way to address it that was maybe a little bit out there and a little bit challenging.
Well, what I love off the bat is the design of what you're doing. And I admit that I am basic at times and I buy wine off the shelf because it looks cool.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, and
always.
I'm like sitting here going, this is like a poster from like the 60s, 70s, like travel poster.
Yeah.
Like amazing looking thing where I would buy this based on the design alone.
And that was exactly the inspiration. We wanted something that would feel kind of, I think transportive was the word that we were always using of like, how do you, without telling people in words what this is, how they might feel or how we hope they might feel when they drink it.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what's in the drinks and specifically amaro. Foodies and people who like food and drink know what amaro is, but a lot of people don't, right? So this is sort of like a liqueur almost.
Yeah, it's inspired by that sort of
I mean,
Italian...
your soda's not, but amaro is, right?
Exactly, yeah. Amaro in general is like this big sprawling category in Italy of these bittersweet drinks. They're before dinner, after dinner type drinks that are fairly bitter, and they get all of that from botanicals like roots and citrus peels and all sorts of other stuff to kind of create a really complex and occasionally strange and kind of fun flavor.
Generally drunk by themselves, right? But also sometimes in cocktails.
Yes. I think you're seeing like over the last few years, especially more and more bartenders incorporating amaro into cocktails more often. Like I feel like when I go out to a bar around here these days, it's almost hard to find a cocktail that doesn't have an amaro in it now. And like, I love that. So.
Oh, it's absolutely great. I was just at Kiesling the other night, and there's some cocktails with amaro there, and I actually introduced someone to the concept. They were very excited. They liked it a lot.
Jason, how did the company, get its start? How did amaro form the basis of this idea for a soft drink?
When this sort of idea crystallized for me of like drinks for when you're not drinking, I was thinking a lot about bitters and soda because that's my favorite thing to drink if I'm out at a bar but I don't want a real drink. And so I started playing around with bitters recipes, and all along I had been making amaro at home just for fun, just as a thing that I
distilling
enjoyed.
your own.
I'm not distilling. I was buying spirit and infusing that with like running out to sort of those weird esoteric markets and picking up like barks and leaves and flowers and just putting all of that into a jar with
That's cool.
With some grain spirit or whatever else I could find. And it hadn't really occurred to me, despite the fact that their processes are very similar for making amaro or making bitters, that I could do sort of an amaro version of a bitters. Like take some of the flavors that I love from this like world of Italian amaro and put that into something that we would think of more the way that we think of as a bitters, as like a very intense flavoring component. And so I kind of tried to build it that way because I love bitters and soda, but I also really love amaro. Some of the advice that I got early on when I was starting this was to do something that I really loved, because otherwise I'll never be able to sell it.
That is true. That is true of any like independent business, I think.
And when did you start the company? Like when did you decide that I'm going to make this into a business?
That was the late summer, early fall of 2017. Oh my God.
So a couple years ago now.
Yeah. We didn't sell our first case until near the end of 2018. That's why it sometimes like scares me when I do the math.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You're based here in Detroit. Are you
Yes.
bottling and making it and everything here in Detroit?
No, we tried to find a bottler in Detroit that could do this for us. There's one here that was just way too big for us. There was another one that was small enough but didn't have the equipment that we needed to not use preservatives. And so slowly expanded the search. We were able to find some great guys down in Pennsylvania who were able to do the bottling.
You speaking of no preservatives, I'm taking a gander at this ingredient list, and it is really cool. And it's definitely like much more in the natural world than, say, like a Coca-Cola. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that was something that was sort of personally important to me. I think in sort of the soft drinks industry in general, there is this blind adherence to being all natural, which as I started to work through this project, realized doesn't actually mean much of anything. For a while, Coca-Cola was calling itself all natural, and they have a pretty good argument that it is based on how the FDA defines all natural.
So there's the FDA definition, and then there's like taking it to another level.
Yeah, and that's a big part of the reason that I didn't want to put all natural or anything like that on the label. I really just wanted the ingredients to be able to speak for themselves, and to not even rely on the sort of like natural ingredients that you'll even find like a lot of cocktail bars around here. If they're kegging something, they might use a citric acid or a malic acid to recreate a lemon or a lime flavor without having to worry about that spoiling in the keg, at least not on the same time frame. It gives it a much longer shelf life. But I didn't even want to do that because I think when the ingredients are so upfront and out there for people to see, if they can read through that list and they can have a little fun reading through it and saying, "Whoa, what's that? That sounds weird." Like, but
not scary because it's not a chemical. It's not a ethylene whatever, 14 different syllables. I don't think anything on here. No, I'm looking. The largest number of syllables is Mediterranean, which I think
sounds
speaks well.
Yeah.
No preservatives in here, right? And it's also low sugar. That's one of the big things too, right?
And that was just another thing where I don't really drink soda. I might have a ginger beer or a Coke once every 3 months. But if I'm out, and like half the reason that I would drink bitters and soda when I was at a bar is because I didn't really want to think about all that sugar, the calories. Like first it was the issue of it wasn't good for me. But then as I started playing with these, and I mean, there were early versions as I was coming up with the recipes where I used a bunch more sugar. There were some where I just did none, because that's another sort of like long-standing trend of just being able to say 0 sugar. But found about 4 grams to be the place where like I kind of found my preferred balance between the acids and the sweet and the bitter.
Well, and one of the reasons I'm excited to try this is that I love the taste of cocktails. I love the art of cocktails. I love it's like its own experience in itself plus the booze, which I find to be really valuable. However, I cannot drink every night.
Yep.
I like drinking, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And if I had a different life path where I didn't have to be up in the morning,
alcohol could put you on a different life path if you like.
It's true. I could go towards that path, but I'm not going to. But I still want to have like that experience of enjoying things, because I think food and drink is one of the like simple pleasures that I don't think enough people embrace, right?
Yes,
They say,
I would fully agree with that. And sort of finding these ways to maybe, I don't know, I'm gonna sound like a snob if I say elevate these like sort of everyday things, but that's really what I wanted to try to do, is like make a soda that I could drink when I'm out having a nice time with friends and not feel that, that guilt. I don't know. Everybody feels it, but if you're not drinking and everybody else is, and they all kind of look at you and they're like, oh, why aren't you drinking?
Yeah.
right. That like peer pressure almost, if it will.
Yeah. Like you're somehow bringing down their good time because you're not participating in this ritual.
Because I think that's the thing. It's about that communal experience. And I think that's even more important because you're seeing so many people that I know. I have lots of friends. I am in my late 30s who are moving towards, frankly, there's this thing, I won't use the last word, but alcohol-free AF, AFAF.
Yep.
Because they have kids, they have work, they've made a series of decisions over the years, or they've just decided to make that a choice for them, but a way to like have people kind of fit together and be communal over these food and drink things.
Yes. I feel like in a large way, it's not as necessary to go out to a communal space anymore. You've got, Netflix, you've got Instagram, you've got all of these other ways to sort of keep yourself nominally engaged at home. And especially if people are drinking less and you have all that going on, like,
which is a national trend. People are.
Yeah. I don't know. This more and more, I feel like we're hopefully giving people a way to feel like they can go out and be social and not have to worry about that weird pressure we were just talking about.
At the same time, I'm guessing that these sodas are pretty good mixers in cocktails.
Yeah, that's a fun one because I really was resistant to that idea when we first launched. People asked about mixing and my response was generally like, that's your business. But now that I've actually tried some really good ones, and they had one on at Kiesling fairly recently. They had one over at the Skip a while back. And those are just the Detroit spots I'm thinking of off the top of my head. But I've tried some really, really cool stuff that I maybe just didn't believe was possible because I got it in my head that like, well, I made these this way because I wanted them to be this way.
Yeah.
We're not messing with it.
Have you found that to be something a lesson you've learned being an entrepreneur, kind of like as your product becomes other people's?
Yeah. And that's, you know what? That's, I think before we went on the mic and you asked like, is this your product? And I kind of hesitated and it was exactly that feeling of like, not really anymore. Like I started it, but so many other people I think are starting to feel ownership of it. And it's this really kind of surreal, really cool feeling that like, I don't know, maybe we're building a little bit of a community through a soft drink.
I'm telling you, you should do the pop-up and you should do pins or something so people can see each other at the bar, that they're, they recognize that they're both into the same thing and they can start a conversation. It's kind of elevated conversation.
Oh, I really like that. Yeah. I wasn't even thinking about the pin as a way to like, hey, you are in the club.
Right, exactly. Join the Casamara Club. Get a subscription.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm dying to crack one of these bad boys open and give it a try.
Let's do it. Yeah. It kind of started off as I really just thought there was going to be one flavor. If you guys are familiar with Campari.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Cool. Great.
We're big Negroni fans.
And in case
I
love Negronis, but in case listeners don't know, what is Campari?
Campari it does have like a really strong, I'd say, grapefruity flavor to
Very
it.
citrusy, yeah.
But with the Campari, I think a lot of that comes from, and they don't tell anybody their recipe.
Yeah,
so
right.
all of this is speculation. But my understanding and the way that I built Alta, which is sort of I think it's our flagship. I don't know if I get to decide that, but it seems to have been the best seller consistently so far. But the main ingredient in that and in, I believe, Campari is this bitter orange called Echinotto. And those grow in Italy, and the peel has this like intense, bitter, floral, grapefruity thing that's, I think for a lot of people, it can be fairly intense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But as I sort of got used to that flavor and came to love it, I was like, well, that should be a soda. I came to find out I wasn't the first person to have that idea. There are a bunch of those in Italy, but they tend to be a lot sweeter. And so I think we are still maybe doing something that's valuable to the world in just having less sugar in it, because I just can't enjoy something when it's that syrupy sweet. It's hard to have it with a meal.
Me
it's
neither.
hard to get the flavor out of your mouth. I kind of like that these don't linger longer than they ought to.
And the first one I just happened to pull out is, how do I say this? The Sera, S-E-R-A.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's got it's a beautiful bottle. And tell me a little bit of the story and the inspiration behind this flavor.
The inspiration for this one. So the kind of main ingredients in this one are grapefruit peel and cinnamon and some baking spices. And the idea was to create like sort of an Aperol spritzy type thing that was just deeply infused with cinnamon. And I actually got that idea from over at Grey Ghost. I don't know if they're still doing this, but the My Paloma, they use an Aperol, a cinnamon-infused Aperol. And that just like, that idea just really, really stuck with me.
Nice.
Well, I know how you love your Aperol spritz.
I do love me some Aperol spritz, yeah. I make them slightly different than the recipe as directed on the bottle. I first of all do a little bit of just Angostura bitters. I'm sure other bitters would be good.
Okay.
And then instead of an orange wedge, I do an orange peel.
Nice.
Because
okay.
I like, it needs a little bit of bitterness to counteract the sweetness in the Aperol.
I think my favorite spritz is Cookie Rosa. So same ratios, I like the peel as opposed to the wheel or the wedge. But for some reason that one just seems to strike the right balance of like bitter, but not like Campari bitter.
Well, let's give this a shot. All right, friends.
Normally when we do these taste tests, we're drinking something boozy.
Well, usually we can't record another segment after we do these taste tests. We were singing. We were at Brewery Faison. We were singing on the way home.
All right.
Did you guys record at the brewery?
Oh, we did.
We did.
Oh, wow.
A lot of times people will come in. I mean, that one we went there because we were like, you can't bring your beers to us really, but we've done other ones where we're in. We have people like, do you know Robin Cleveland? He does Norden Aquavit.
Yeah.
He came in and brought a bottle, and
we need more of that Norden.
We drank
so
neat
good.
Norden during the afternoon, which was nice.
The Norden and Alta were two of the ingredients in that skip cocktail that I was talking about.
Yeah, nice. So super interesting on the nose. Like I almost smell like kind of gin like botanicals. The grapefruit I definitely pick up.
Yeah, I think I get a little bit of the grapefruit, but a lot of what I get from this one is the cinnamon, I think, and like a really deep.
It's got gin botanicals without the juniper trees.
Right. And
without the Christmas tree.
I think I get the rhubarb a little too. I notice there's rhubarb in there.
I always forget to say the rhubarb when I'm talking about this one, but I do think it adds like a little bit of that sort of that snap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there.
That's nice. I mean, I'm a big fan of sparkling water, which I know some people think sometimes is boring, but I like the fizz without all the sugar and everything. Yep. And this is nice because you don't really notice sweetness.
Yes. The sugar
it's very, very subtle.
In a lot of ways is not there to. This might sound like a backwards way of thinking about it, but it maybe is how I've come to think about it. The sugar's not really there to sweeten the drink. It's there to sort of like provide a backbone to the flavors and to sort of bring them to life a little bit.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it's got a lot going on, like on the tongue. It's nice. I really like it. It's really interesting.
I'll also say that this is the best time of the year to be doing something like this because these have just been sitting in my car and they came out like the perfect temperature.
So what is the perfect temperature to drink these in your opinion? I gather you don't like to throw them in ice and pull them out. If they're too cold, you'd miss all the complex flavors going on in here.
You do. And that's part of the reason that I like pouring it into a glass. 9 times out of 10, I'm just drinking a bottle right out of the refrigerator and I still love it. But this feels, I couldn't even guess what temperature we're at, but maybe like 10 degrees warmer than that. Yeah, I think one of the reasons that I appreciate a glass is it allows it to sort of come up to temperature a little bit faster, even if you are pulling it out of a refrigerator.
So this one is the Onda. Oh,
yeah.
Which I saw this on your website and I copied it because I liked it. You described it as Onda is a funky blend of lemon, sage, and rhubarb that lets people know you read the New Yorker.
Oh, wow. I forgot I said that. It's definitely it's sort of the weirdo of the bunch.
I like to get weird.
Me too. It's definitely my favorite. It's also probably the one that it maybe gets the most love from sort of like hospitality industry folks, but it also is the one that maybe sells the least overall. So there's kind of like a fun, I feel like the Onda crowd is like a small little.
I think the New Yorker description then is very, very apt, right?
Yeah.
Because like the critics love it, but it's not exactly as widely read as you'd think it is.
Yes, critically acclaimed without really sort of the audience score there.
This ain't no USA Today beverage.
Yes.
Sorry, Nathan.
All right. Here we go. Smell it while it's still fizzing.
Let's get
It's
weird.
nice. I mean, fans of Negronis and Aperol Spritz, like this is soda's right up your alley. It's right up my alley.
That is weird. I like it in a good way.
Mm-hmm. It's cool to drink a soda, and it has the complexities of an amaro or some kind of like a fine wine, where the flavors are lingering and changing and morphing on your tongue, like while you're digesting it. It's a lot more complex and interesting than your typical sugary soda.
Thank you. Yeah, and that was something that I was really hoping for, was it's not just one flavor that's intended to sort of hit all over at once. The way I think a lot of soft drinks with natural flavors are intended to like really just target you in a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this, I wanted it to sort of play out for people the way a good drink can.
The sage is really cool. It's subtle, but it adds a really interesting dimension to it.
Yeah, and I think that is the thing that makes this one polarizing. I think some people, they catch the sage and they're like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever had. I love it. And some people catch it and they say, this is the weirdest thing I've ever had. Pour it out.
I mean, I know people who just dig their sage, and so like if you dig that, like this is your jam.
This is the one that I got the most pushback from people on, like before we launched. They were like, are you sure? Are you sure you're gonna do
I think it's
sage?"
great.
I think it's
love
wonderful
it.
though.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I find
it's
nothing
wonderful.
objectionable whatsoever.
No,
about it.
nothing-
It's
no.
really nice.
Thank you.
It's just the thing is about this, and I think this is the thing for listeners to kind of paint a mental picture for you. This is not Verner's or Dr. Pepper
No.
or Coke that has such, like, the flavors here do not punch you in the face. They kind of give you a back rub.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
And the carbonation is a little less aggressive, I think, than a lot of sodas too.
It's so hard to tell. I sometimes wonder, these in particular, maybe just because they're a little bit warmer and we're pouring them into a glass. Like I get feedback on the bubbles all over the spectrum. Some people are like, I love that the bubbles are intense, and some people are like, I wish there were more bubbles.
Oh.
So I never even know what to. I don't even know what I think anymore.
Well, I think in those kind of situations, I think you just kind of let the chips fall where they may,
Yes.
right? Because you can't always, the customer is often right, but not always.
Yeah, and I think to the extent that like people's sort of palates and experiences,
Right,
with
because it
these
can be
things
anything.
are-
It can
Yeah.
be any, like there's so many variances, and bubble is such a preference thing.
Yes.
All right.
Jason, dealer's choice. Which one's next?
Let's hit Capo next, so
Okay.
we can finish strong with Alta.
All right.
Capo.
Right.
I like it. It's got the green kind of going on.
Yep. Another kind of mountainscape design on the label.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
this one we sort of wanted to communicate something a little bit more of. I think a lot of the other three maybe imply that we're by the beach. I wanted this one to feel like we're sort of more in the mountains. We're away from the coast.
I feel like that if you live in like a Mies van der Rohe home in Lafayette Park or something, you need to own this on principle.
I think that's right. I hope so.
Along with a subscription to New Yorker. Tell us what's going on in the capo,
So with the capo,
which is like a term for like a mafia boss or something, isn't it?
You know what? It can be for all of these names. I wanted them to be a little
Italian.
bit open to interpretation.
Okay.
They all, you can read them a couple different ways. Yeah, with capo, it's kind of fun because it means that. It means like a cape that you would wear. It also means the cape by the ocean, which brings us to the inspiration for this one. It's a southern Italian amaro called Vecchio Amaro del Capo that was just one of the very first ones that I've tried.
Before we get into this, I just want to say, I want to tell people we're buckling up for chamomile and licorice root and peppermint leaf and cardamom. Like this
Peppermint, I get that. Yeah. And I get there's a lot of floral
Yes.
essence going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say this one is sort of the maybe the counterpart, the mirror to Onda, in that this is definitely the least objectionable.
Right. Like I could see somebody who likes, just like a mellow ginger ale. This is not as nearly as effervescent as like Verner's, but like a Canada Dry, if you're into that, you would like Capo.
Yes.
It's like Justin Trudeau went to Italy and came back with a bunch of flavors.
Yes. This is exactly what we were going for. Like people tell me when I'm doing like grocery store demos, they'll say like, "Oh, this tastes like fancy Sprite." And that that one hung with me the first time I heard
could
it,
see
but
that,
I've
though,
really
yeah.
come
I could
to
see
love
it.
it.
I could see it.
A friend of mine now says he prefers to call it a low sugar Mountain Dew. I get the sort of like ginger beer from some people. It's all over the place, but I think maybe the defining characteristic, the thing that brings all of those little notes together, is that there's just something comforting about this one. It reminds people of something that they've had before in a way that the others are a little bit more their own thing.
Yeah.
This is almost like the on-ramp.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And no caffeine in any of these?
Not in any of these. I think if we ever did a cola or anything like that, there
Ooh, you
might
kind
be
of
a little
expect
bit.
it. Yeah.
I would love to try a Casamara Club cola. That's got a cool name to it too. Triple
Yeah,
C.
yeah. I'm having I'm having a hard time with, because so much of what I associate with like the flavor of Coca-Cola and colas in generally is phosphoric acid, which I really don't want to use. And so now I'm trying to figure out how can I recreate that with real ingredients.
Yeah, to me, I feel like you lean a little bit more. Here's a starting point, which I know is going to sound weird because it's cheap cola, but I had Town Club the other day, and it's a very unique cola taste. I felt like it was like, something in more of that neighborhood would be more interesting as a cocktail cola, because it's got this different like trail at the end of it. I can't even describe. I was like, it was in my like palate for like 5 minutes where I'm like, I don't know why I bought Town Club, but I did. And I was like, this is different.
I got to try that, because I've been trying to get out and, see.
I mean, it's all of 69 cents. So,
Right. Yeah. I think I can probably even expense that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's research.
Exactly.
All right. And the Alta.
Yeah. And that kind of brings us back to where we started the conversation with this sort of like, it started as a Campari inspired thing, and then I added some juniper, so maybe you could call it Negroni inspired.
Ooh, nose forward.
Ooh, that's nice.
And that's a lot of that is the Canotto, I think.
That's the Italian citrus.
Yes.
These are all pretty similar in color, just kind of a pale, like very lightly colored.
I'd say like 99% of the color just comes from the lemon juice and 1% from the different extracts that we're working with.
Oh, I like that one a lot. I mean, I love that Campari, the Chinotto, right? I love that flavor. It's a lot less assertive than you would have it, obviously, in a Campari.
Yes.
But it's nice. I mean, it's fruity. It's, almost like it veers on like berry fruit a little bit almost.
My favorite tasting note that I've ever gotten on this one was red Slurpee.
Red Slurpee. Yeah, I could see. I actually, Red Pop briefly came to my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to sound like a crazy story, but I spent a lot of my time growing up in Indian Village at my grandmother's house, and we would always do brunch, and like all the time there would be a rotating brunch, and this tastes like, and that was so much fun. And I was in my like 7th, 8th, 9th grade. I drank my first mimosa in middle school, I'm sure. And I'm not saying this is a mimosa, but this tastes like my Indian Village memories.
Oh,
wow.
And I love that.
That's deep.
Like, I feel like this belongs in like the bar in the study.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this is the jam.
Underage mimosa at grandma's house.
Yes.
Okay. That's my new favorite tasting note.
I like it though. I really like it.
Also has juniper berry, mandarin peel, allspice berry, and clove bud.
See, that's what's coming through for me.
And aniseed.
My grandmother loved to do cloves, and there's a little bit of the mandarin, and then the juniper is something. I am one of those crazy people that loves gin.
Okay.
That's delicious. I love that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is.
They're all really good. They're really nice, very drinkable. So it's just you, and you have one partner in the company?
Yes. Yeah. And an old friend who happened to be, she was working at Italy at the time, was quitting because she just was like kind of tired of working there and was sort of looking for something to do that might feel a little bit more room to explore, so to speak, and maybe a way to sort of focus on some sustainability stuff, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, she came on January 1st of last year. We had the conversation on New Year's Day.
Okay, so just about a year ago.
Yeah.
And she's in Brooklyn, I understand, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I lived out there for about 8 years before I moved here. She was just I wish that we could sort of work together and see each other every day. Like the sort of pen pal business isn't always easy, but she's just like easily the best person for the job. And somebody who was just like ready to really buy in.
So, how's the business going? I mean, are you guys finding traction, or are you getting people to, like, hey, I'll try this. I don't know what this. Obviously, you don't really have any competitors in the U.S. market, at least not in Michigan. I mean, I'm sure you have competitors at some level. But
There are definitely some people that are working on maybe similar projects, and I'm excited to see how those go. I would really like to think that there's room in the market for more of this.
Well, it could create a category. Right?
That's the hope.
Right, because you're at the forefront of a category. Because to me, I look at this and go, this is its own thing.
Yes.
I mean this is apart and separate from so much else that I have tasted in like the soft drink world.
I mean, look at White Claw. And this is way better, in my opinion, than that garbage.
Randy. Sorry, engineer Randy. So our audio engineer, if people at home don't know, loves his White Claw. In fact, he's even gone around bars as like Gandalf the White Claw and had like duct tape around like 13 cans of White Claw.
That's too much.
That's what happens when you're drinking Hamtramck sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. I think one of the only times I ever had White Claw was in Hamtramck. Maybe that's a thing.
I mean, there's a lot better booze than that
when
in Hamtramck.
Hamtramck, yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Just to be clear, there's a lot better booze than that in Hamtramck.
But yeah, I do think that sort of like it. I think White Claw and Casamara Club maybe share in some sort of like strange way a lineage with LaCroix.
Sure.
Of just that like almost no flavor, a sparkling water.
But
and we sort of took it.
You added flavor.
We added flavor, and they added vodka. And I don't think they both have a place in the world. Like,
Sure.
I don't love the taste of White Claw, but I kind of love the way that people love it. It's a fun brand.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Jason, where can people find Casamara Club around Detroit? Like, what are some of the, main markets, some of your big accounts? I've seen it at Western Market. I live in Ferndale. I know they
great.
sell it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Western Market was one of the first people to bring us on. Holiday Market up in Royal Oak.
Mm-hmm.
Rocco's was another one in Detroit that really just... I mean, they were just starting out too, but they took a chance on us, and I don't know if I've ever not seen their cooler stocked since the very first cases that we sold them. Anthology Coffee's got 4-packs downtown, or I guess in Eastern Market.
Mm-hmm.
Paramita's got it. Ochre is one of our just like all-time best.
And Ochre is one of those places, by the way, that if listeners don't know, they should know about it. I know it's come up onto the radar of the national food scene super quick.
Yep.
And I've known a bunch of local folks who are like, where on earth did this come from? But then if you look at their like lineage, you're like, of course they're doing this well.
Yes.
Right? Because they've got so much talent with their team.
Yeah. And they just, I don't know, the first time I walked in there, I was like, oh, it's a coffee shop and bakery. And then to find out they have like just world-class food, like one of the best brunches that you can get anywhere.
I mean, it's literally in like all the magazines now. It's and it deserves to be.
Yep. And of course, there's always just good old word of mouth, right? Like just ask your grocer if they don't carry it. Like, hey, do you ever think about? I mean, I've been to a party store. I remember my old party store back in my old neighborhood in Detroit. Couple 15 years ago, I said, hey, do you ever carry Bell's beer? And he said, what's that called? And he got out a piece of paper and wrote the name down. And next time I walk in there, the coolers are stocked with like Bell's beer. I mean, it's so like, a good retailer will listen to his customers and go, oh, you're curious about this. And if enough people ask,
well, and there's also
stupid not to stock it. Right?
There's also, because it's not alcoholic, there's also the internet.
Yes. Yeah. I always forget that one. You can always get it online.
CasamaraClub.com, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Jason LaValla, thanks for coming in and not getting us drunk, but sharing your story and some of your wonderful Amaro sodas.
Thanks so much, guys.
Great.
This was great.
Yeah, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Before I let you go, next week is a big week. Journalist Kara Swisher joins me on the show. Author Michael Zadorian has a new book out. He'll also be here. And of course, all the stories you could fit into a 2.5 liter of Faygo at the liquor store right here on Your Daily Detroit. We're all juggling multiple things to make this thing go. Daily Detroit is made by Sven Gustafson, Cheyenne Nocerini, Randy Walker, and you at patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Well, I'm off to Plymouth tonight for dinner, a super cute suburban downtown, that's for sure. Also, a shout out to Kiesling for a wonderful time for me and engineer Randy last night. They didn't give us anything for me to say that, but excellent service. With that, I'm J.R. Stays. Take care of each other, and I'll see you around Detroit.